Throughout history, humans have devised some of the most horrifying ways to end a life. Some of these methods were designed not just to kill, but to inflict unimaginable pain, terror, and suffering. From being cooked alive in a giant metal bull to being sliced into 1,000 pieces, these executions were meant to serve as a warning to others. Today, we take a deep dive into the 10 most brutal execution methods in human history. But be warned, this is not for the faint of heart. Imagine being locked inside a massive bronze bull, unable to move, as a fire roars beneath you. This was the fate of those sentenced to die by the brazen bull, an execution device invented in ancient Greece. Perillos of Athens, the man who supposedly created this nightmarish device for the tyrant Phalaris, was ironically its first victim. Once inside, the heat would turn the metal into a scorching prison, roasting the victim alive. The worst part? The bull was designed with special tubes to amplify the victim's screams, making them sound like the roaring of a beast. If you think being roasted alive is horrific, wait until you hear about scaphism, an ancient Persian execution method that turned a person into a living feast for insects. The condemned was tied between two wooden boats, force-fed milk and honey until they suffered extreme diarrhea, and then left floating in stagnant water. The sugar attracted swarms of insects which burrowed into the victim's skin, laying eggs and feasting on their flesh. Victims died slowly over days or even weeks, rotting alive while conscious. From China, we have one of the most excruciating execution methods in history, lingqi, or death by 1,000 cuts. Unlike quick beheadings, lingqi was designed to prolong suffering. A knife would carve out small chunks of flesh from the victim's body, one at a time, while they were still alive. This process could last for hours, sometimes even days, as executioners carefully ensured the victim didn't die too quickly. In the final stages, the heart was cut out, ending the horror in a way that was almost merciful. According to Viking sagas, the Blood Eagle was a ritualistic execution reserved for the worst traitors. The victim's back was cut open, their ribs broken outward like wings, and their lungs pulled through the wounds. The sight was meant to resemble an eagle in flight. If done correctly, the victim remained alive for some time, suffering an unimaginable fate. Whether this method was ever truly practiced remains debated, but its legend alone is enough to send shivers down the spine. A slow, agonizing death awaited those sentenced to the breaking wheel in medieval Europe. Also known as the Catherine wheel, this method involved tying a person to a large wooden wheel and systematically shattering their limbs with a heavy iron club. The executioner would take their time, breaking bones one by one while avoiding vital organs, ensuring the victim stayed alive. The broken body was then left on display for days as a grim warning to others. One of the most infamous execution methods in history, being hung, drawn, and quartered, was reserved for traitors in medieval England. First, the condemned was hanged, but not enough to die. While still alive, they were cut open, and their intestines were pulled out and burned before their eyes. As if that wasn't enough, the body was then cut into 4 pieces and sent to different parts of the kingdom as a warning. Few executions in history match the sheer brutality of this punishment. In parts of medieval Europe and Asia, criminals were sometimes executed by being sawed in half, a fate as gruesome as it sounds. The victim was hung upside down, ensuring blood remained in the brain, keeping them alive longer. A large saw would then be used to slowly slice through the body, starting from the groin and working upwards. Some victims remained conscious until the blade reached their chest. This method was designed to maximize suffering, making it one of history's most horrifying deaths. Few execution methods are as gruesome as impalement, a practice made infamous by Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration behind Dracula. The condemned was forced onto a sharp wooden stake, which was slowly driven through their body. If done correctly, the stake would avoid vital organs, prolonging death for hours or even days. Victims would be left writhing in agony, displayed publicly as a warning. Vlad reportedly executed over 20,000 people this way, earning him his terrifying reputation. While its actual historical use is debated, the Iron Maiden remains one of the most feared torture devices of all time. This tall, coffin-like chamber was lined with sharp spikes on the inside. When the door was shut, the spikes pierced the victim's body, not deep enough to kill instantly, but enough to cause slow, excruciating pain. The victim could bleed out over hours or even days, trapped in complete darkness. Whether or not it was used for actual executions, the legend of the Iron Maiden has cemented its place in history. In the modern era, the electric chair was introduced as a humane alternative to hanging, but its reality was anything but humane. When the switch was flipped, high-voltage electricity surged through the body, causing violent convulsions, burns, and sometimes even the victim catching fire. If the first shock failed, additional jolts were required, leading to horrifying suffering. Even in recent times, cases of botched executions have led to debates on whether such a method should still be used. Human history is filled with unimaginable cruelty, and these execution methods stand as some of the darkest chapters of our past. While many of these punishments have been abolished, the debate over capital punishment continues to this day. What do you think? Should the death penalty still exist? Let us know in the comments below.